Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. I'm Craig Garber, host of the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast. What you may not know about me is that I'm also the author of the book, How to Make Maximum Money with Minimum Customers. And since March of 2000, I've been running a busy marketing consulting firm. During this time, I've helped over 300 clients in 108 different industries all over the world sell everything from $20 books to $5,000 seminar seats and everything in between. Now, if you own or operate a business, ask yourself the following marketing-related questions and be brutally honest with your answers. Do you have an email list of prospects and customers, but you have no idea what to say to them, how often to say it, or how to make money with this list? Is your business website consistently generating new leads and making sales? Is it making you any money at all? If not, do you know why? Is your advertising effective? Is it consistently making you money? And do you know how to use social media effectively to market your business? If any one of these questions are puzzling you, then you need to book a one-on-one marketing strategy session with me if your business qualifies. After this strategy session, you'll know how to speak to and make money with your email list, how to use your website to attract customers and clients who are ready to buy from you now, and how to sell your goods and services for top dollar and at much higher profit margins than your competition. Listen, stop hoping things will get better on their own. Hope is not a very good business strategy. Instead, book a marketing strategy session with me by going to everyonelovesguitar.com/marketing and find out if your business meets the 5 criteria you need to qualify for this service. Again, that's everyonelovesguitar.com/marketing. Thank you for listening, and now let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar, and I am here with the most rock star looking guy I've spoke to in a while, the man himself, Ben Owens, master of Spyderwulf and loads of other stuff we'll talk about today. Ben's a 33-year-old guitar player, born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and raised in Birmingham. And, I normally, Ben sent me this bio, and I normally would not put down this much of a bio, but I thought this was really raw and descriptive of what it's like being a young musician. And so I'm going to include all this because I want you to see what goes on in Ben's mind and other guys just like Ben. And I think a lot of people mistakenly think, hey, you're a musician and these guys are, playing with guys like Brad Paisley and, anybody famous immediately, and it's far from that. Anybody who gets to even stand on stage has got a long journey ahead of them, and I thought this bio that Ben put together was very honest and reflective of that. So I'm going to read the whole thing. So Ben fell in love with guitar when he started taking guitar lessons at age 12, and he first started playing Hootie and the Blowfish, and then he moved on to playing classic rock of Led Zeppelin, Allman Brothers, Jimi Hendrix, and 60s and 70s Guitar Hero stuff. I also happen to like Ben because he likes all the same music I listen to. And I know nothing about country music, and I saw a lot of guys here, so I said, I can relate to this guy. He studied at Belmont University in Nashville from 2002 to 2006. He said Belmont was a great experience because the campus is a microcosm of the music industry in the sense that you've got the School of Music separate from the School of Music Business. So you have vocal students, for example, that need guitarists to accompany them in their voice lessons or in their recitals or to make demos. Then you have audio engineering students in the business school that need you to play on guitar players to play on the recording projects. So what happens is you wind up doing a lot of gigs in a sense and sessions for free because everybody's playing on each other's class project. And that's how he was able to get a few train wrecks out of his system before getting out into the real world. And I give you credit for being smart enough to know that you're going to have a bunch of train wrecks. So let me get it out of my system and let me do as much as possible so I don't have to do this in the real world. So kudos to you, man. He graduated in 2006, got a full-time job working as a valet down at the downtown Hilton and the Union Station Hotel, where he got to meet musicians like Little Richard, Charlie Daniels, Alice Cooper, Kelly Clarkson, Reba McEntire, Jack White, and more. So I want to just point something out because I think this is the reality for 90% of musicians, and the ones who are not telling you that are probably full of shit. he graduates college and he didn't go, he didn't get picked up as a sub with the Rolling Stones. He took a job working as a valet because he wanted to make money, and he's hustling, playing gigs at night. He was in the Chris Weaver band for about 5 years playing gigs, and they also cut 2 albums, the second of which was produced by Josh Leo, which in Nashville, let me just inform people listening, if you're not familiar, the fact that he played on the album and went on tour is very unusual, because in Nashville, you typically have one group of guys in the studio and then another group of guys going out on tour. It's a very unusual, for the most part, unlike any other place in the country. But the fact that he did both says a lot about his ability, and it also says something about his ability to build relationships and his likability. That true?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too, man. Next steady gig was country singer Matt Stillwell. They toured pretty heavily on a bus he had wrapped by whoever his sponsor was at the time. Dude, I love this. You're so freaking honest. When he started, the sponsor was Old Smoky Moonshine, a favorite of mine, of course. But it switched to Budweiser at some point, a favorite of mine when I was 12. We would headline small clubs or ATV park festivals, and they did a few opening spots for Charlie Daniels, Travis Tritt, Joe Diffie, Scotty McCreery, James Otto, 1,000 Horses, Grand Funk, Jackal, America, Girl Talk. What was it like? Did you get to talk to Mark Farner or any of those guys in Grand Funk?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I saw them, man.
That was actually at a NASCAR race where we opened for them. That was a huge thing. I mean, we watched them play, but we were never in the same room or anything.
Was Farner he was playing with them, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of like a super group by now. Like, I kind of forgot exactly what the lineup is, but some guys from 38 Special are in it. And like the set list was like that too. Like they were 38 Special songs.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I saw them at like an oldies thing, and this was probably 20 years ago. They would do an oldies show. So, I mean, Grand Funk comes from the 70s, as you know. Lately, Ben's been playing with the Black Jacket Symphony out of Birmingham. This is a really interesting gig. What they do is they recreate classic albums live. Then, after an intermission, they do a greatest hits set of whatever artists we're doing. So it's not exactly a tribute band. Like, they don't dress up and wear wigs and costumes of the performers. They just try to sound as close to the album as they can. So they have a revolving lineup of musicians doing this, especially singers, and they'll hire whoever is right for the particular album. He's done AC/DC, Back in Black, Led Zeppelin 2 and 4, Lynyrd Skynyrd's Second Helping, The Eagles' Hotel California, Prince's Purple Rain, Journey's Escape, David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust, Queen, A Night at the Opera, and Fleetwood Mac Rumors. And the next one he's about to do, this was written a while ago, Sgt. Pepper. Did you guys do that yet?
Yes, we've done that, and we've done Tom Petty, Damn the Torpedoes.
Awesome.
Add that to the list.
Now, I would imagine this is tremendous, like, woodshedding for you.
It is. Every new show I learn, I get better. It's kind of like I'm taking lessons again, but I'm taking them from myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm supposed to do it just right, and everybody, all these guitarists that I have to imitate, well, they're usually full of surprises. You know, like when I really dig deep and start learning, I think, oh, that's what he's doing, and he's not using pull-offs there. He's picking every note, and can I even do that? And there's a sweep lick there. I never thought Angus Young was a sweep picker, but here's one. It's pretty hard.
How long do you have between albums to learn the next one?
It can be all over the place. Typically they hire me about a month before the first show, which is not nearly enough time.
Not to learn, 6 to 10, probably more like 10 to 12 brand new songs. Yeah, that's a lot.
Well, it's more like 20 or 25.
Because you got to do the greatest hits then. Yeah.
Greatest hits set.
Who's been the most difficult?
By far, Fleetwood Mac.
Really?
And everybody's so surprised about that, but it's not even a question that that's the hardest.
Wow. And Lindsey Buckingham was just doing lots of stuff nobody knew?
Well, just it's all that Chet Atkinsy, Travis Picking, fingerstyle stuff, which doesn't really jump out as being flashy, but it's just a constant right hand workout. Like, it's just song after another that actually is like running a marathon. It's just tiring.
So, man, I'll be really interested, like, in following up with you in like a year or so and find out what came next, because whatever you're doing now is going to lead you to the next thing that is going to basically, I bet, want you simply because of this work you've done. If it makes sense.
And that's a lot of why I was so excited to get involved with them is Buck Johnson, for example, is a singer that's worked with them. He's done the Led Zeppelin shows, and he sings Don Henley for the Eagles shows. He tours with Aerosmith now.
Oh, wow.
Their keyboard player and primary harmony singer. And they hired him based on footage on YouTube of him singing Led Zeppelin with the Black Jacket Symphony. It was like, we need somebody with the kind of range to harmonize with Steven Tyler, and I think this guy is it.
Wow.
And that's just one of them. Brian Gibson is another guitarist who toured with Chris Cornell up until he died.
Very cool.
The guy that kind of started all is a guy named Damon Johnson, and he's played with Alice Cooper and with Thin Lizzy. So, yeah, I hope you're exactly right, because a lot of people that have been involved with the Black Jacket Symphony have done some of that real rock star stuff. And believe it or not, David Lee Murphy, a country singer, hired me for a few gigs based on
this.
Me playing with the Black Jacket Symphony.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I would say this is a great... are you putting up videos of yourself on YouTube regularly doing all these different...
I'm really not, but enough people are.
Okay, good. You got to make sure that's out there, man, with your name, because people got to find you for sure. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, because I interviewed... do you know Jerry McPherson?
I don't.
Jerry's an A-list guy in Nashville, and he's been there for like 30 years. And he went on tour with Vince Gill, and he had to learn all. Dan Huff did the studio licks, and that guy's, very, very fast and good guitar player. And he said, learning those licks and going out on tour with Vince, when he came back, it was like he had a million brand new arrows in his quiver to shoot. And that's exactly what I see happening here with you, man.
Right.
For sure.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. He's been on, Ben's been on 2 road trips with Black Jacket Symphony to the Middle East to play for the troops, which was that really good?
Oh yeah.
Cool.
That's my favorite audience right there. They're just so grateful and into what you're doing and impressed by it, and like that, full of so many questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? Well, I don't know. How do you fly a F-22 fighter jet?
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of mutual respect there.
Yeah. Do you know Dave Baker?
I do.
Okay, so I interviewed Dave, and he plays with Kelly, and he told me his favorite thing he did. They go out to see the troops often as well. He said that's the favorite thing he did, for the same exact reason. It's just such a warm, mutual respecting, and you can't help but feel like you're giving back to guys who deserve all the give back that any of us can give them.
Right.
He also stays busy teaching and playing in the honky tonks on Broadway, mostly with a singer named Brandon Holder at Legends, The Stage, and Second Fiddle. Legends. I was at a club when I was up there, but it was called Losers. I'm sure Legends is somewhere on Broadway.
Right.
Yeah. The Black Jacket Symphony and the Broadway gigs both keep his chops up in different ways. Black Jacket has to be so meticulously accurate all the time, where Broadway is a free-for-all. You mostly play requests. You might have to follow along on a song you don't really know. You might have to lead the band through requests and they don't. He did fill in 2 dates, as he just said, with David Lee Murphy about a month ago, and he hopes to get to do that again. He married his wife, Rachel, in April 2014. You're still married, right?
Right.
Congratulations. There you go.
Thank you.
And she's in the industry as well, working for Average Joe's record label and management company. She does most of the day-to-day management stuff for Colt Ford and Sister Hazel. Man, the names in Nashville are so freaking tough. Like Colt Ford. I mean, if I was named Colt Ford, I would just be like, fuck you to everybody, man. I'm Colt fucking Ford.
Well, his real name is Jason Brown.
That's still a pretty badass name. I'm Jason Brown. You know, it's like a very masculine name.
I guess it sounds like Jason Bourne.
It does. But Colt Ford is badass. It also sounds like a porn star, to be honest with you. I think it helps that Ben thinks it helps that his wife is in the business and she knows what it's like. I do too, man. It's really you need a supportive wife to get anywhere in life. She's patient about his work, understands why he's out of town a lot, and even when he's in town, why he's staying up all night trying to learn the next Black Jacket Symphony show. And their daughter, April, was born in March of 2016. Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
How you like being a dad?
Oh, I like it.
A lot of work, isn't it?
The biggest difference, just besides having another person to love, is like time management. Like even if it's just the dishes and the laundry, you can't stay on top of it.
Yeah.
Like I used to be on time to everything, and I'm not anymore because it's like, oh, I have 5 minutes. Maybe I can wash these bottles.
Right. Well, dishes and laundry turn out to be relaxing activities.
Do they?
You know, it's like, oh man, I get to do the laundry. I don't have to, that responsibility for me anyway, for another life is like heavy shit. It's like a lot of work.
Oh, it is. And it was scary before it happened. But once it does happen, not really scared of it anymore because I don't have much choice. Like I just have to rise to the occasion. Yeah. Because here we are.
A lot of work though, man.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. I hope you guys have nothing but good things out of her. His favorite, guitarists are Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, Mick Ronson. You know, I have two of Jeff Beck's guitarists I'm interviewing in the next 5 days. I have Carmen Vandenberg. I'm interviewing her, I think, Wednesday, and Jennifer Batten's coming on Monday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. I really have a lot of questions for them. Like, can you give me any explanation how that guy does anything he does? Because it seems superhuman, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems like he's almost like Steve Vai or Satriani or those really technical shredder guys. But I don't know. To me, it's more like he hears these crazy sounds in his head and he manages to bypass having to think about it. It's just like straight from his demented brain to his fingers.
With no pick.
The way he works the whole guitar musically, whether it's the knobs or the whammy bar. I've seen him take a slide with his right hand and get way up off the fretboard and play up high just by tapping it, but in tune. Mm-hmm. But none of it comes across like a party trick. Like it's all music from another planet that he's arriving at in some unconventional way.
Yeah. He's totally intense. Mick Ronson, you don't hear that name often. Brian May, Tony Iommi, one of my favorites, Lindsey Buckingham, and Pete Townsend. I bet, was Lindsey on that list before you had to do all this Fleetwood Mac stuff?
That's a great question. He was probably 15 years ago, or maybe even 20 years ago. He was the first guy I saw do the finger style stuff where it's like a bass line with your thumb and then an independent melody on top of it with your other fingers. So I saw that when The Dance came out, which was like a concert video from their reunion tour.
Okay.
And that just blew me away. And I learned a lot of that music back then, which was a good head start for learning the Black Jacket Symphony show. So I was pretty obsessed with that idea and learned a lot of that stuff and worked really hard trying to sort it out. But I guess I got a little disenchanted with him when I discovered Chet Atkins and Tommy Emmanuel and other guitar players that can do that sort of thing arguably better. But Lindsey Buckingham, now that I've learned this Black Jacket Symphony show and I've gotten back in touch with him, he gets credit for really being the only guy that I can think of that incorporates that style so successfully into a rock band.
Yeah. And
you don't hear Chet Atkins playing like a rock and roll solo with a lot of vibrato, like bluesy single line stuff. Like put Chet Atkins into a rock band, that's Lindsey Buckingham. And when he plays like rock leads too, he does it all with his fingers. Like he uses his fingernail like a pick. And I try to get in character for all these shows. I actually grew my nails out.
Did you? Good for you,
man. And he'll take
man.
one finger and alternate up and down strokes like it's a pick. And he can even do like Eddie Van Halen tremolo picking.
Wow.
And it's just a completely different tone. And I discovered that firsthand. Like, if I use my fingernails, I'm a lot closer to the tone than when I use a pick.
Was it weird doing that with your fingernails?
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Yeah, it must be. There is one other guy.
Arrow in my quiver, like you put it. Like I can find
100%.
Use that. Yeah.
There's one other guy I think that probably does that is Mark Knopfler.
Oh, right.
He's another guy that comes to mind because he's a great, finger picker, and he does do stuff like that. He's a brilliant guitar player. And this was what I really liked about you. You like to play SGs. I got one hanging on the wall there, and Les Pauls through orange amps. That is badass. So, man, thank you for your time, and thanks for your patience, and thanks for coming on the show, man. I'm looking forward to this.
Happy to be here.
So, my first question is, the music you like, I love. You and I can hang out and listen to music and drink all evening. But it's a bit at odds with living in Nashville, isn't it? As far as most of the guys aren't listening to that. You basically, like I said in my question, you're a guy that likes to play classic and hard rock and the music guys my age listen to. And does that make it difficult?
Not as much as you might think.
Okay.
Well, for a lot of reasons. I came to Nashville not because I'm a country music fan, but because it's close enough to where I grew up. Birmingham is only 3 hours south of here, so it's not like packing up to New York or Los Angeles
sure.
and making a go at show business. It's okay, go 3 hours north, go to college. It's just an easy way to slowly transition into living in a new town. And yeah, maybe there are some guys that look at me funny because I don't know whatever Merle Haggard song they want to cover. But for the most part, it's okay. And I actually really do like a lot of 90s country music. That's what I heard in the car with my mom growing up. Garth Brooks, Travis Tritt, Alan Jackson. So I am a fan of a lot of country music. I don't know a lot of stuff much older than that, apart from having to learn it for gigs. But I really don't mind playing country music, even though that's not what I lean towards, because it's, I'm still playing guitar. It's not like a day job.
Sure, totally.
I'd rather play country music than have a job, even if it's not Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
But even when I do play that old country music, I think I kind of play it like I would imagine Jimmy Page would if he did. Like sometimes I worry about that. Like, oh, am I country enough for this gig? But so far it actually has gone okay. Because there's a lot of country influence in rock and roll. You can hear some country licks in some Led Zeppelin songs and certainly Rolling Stones songs. And that's where I try to get. Like if I didn't grow up on traditional country music, I can play it like Keith Richards or like Jimmy Page, and it usually gets by. In fact, when David Lee Murphy hired me, he told me that's what he was looking for. Is he didn't want his old hits to sound like they did on the record. He didn't want that clean telly tone. He wanted it to sound like AC/DC. So I brought my SG and I had this Marshall backline amp, and I'm playing Dust on the Bottle, and that is da-dum, ba-dum, but not with a clean telly tone, just with that rock tone. It's the same song, it's the same music, just a different attitude.
Good, man. Well, I mean, there's guys who have done well with that too, like Adam Schoenfeld.
I don't.
He plays for Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, and he's not a country. I don't think he plays a telly ever. I mean, and they wanted him for that aggressive style. So you'd soon know, I think, if someone was dissatisfied with you doing. In fact, you'll know people are dissatisfied with you long before you'll know other people are satisfied with you. That's just it's just human nature. It's a lot easier to complain than give a compliment.
Yeah, you're right.
But, so it's good that you're being authentic, which is the most important thing you do as a musician.
Oh, and the other answer is that there's probably a lot more rock and roll happening in Nashville than people realize. Like, there are these guys called the Rock and Roll Residency, and the spelled with 2 E's. And they have the thing they do I haven't been to it since April was born, honestly, but I used to go all the time. And it's like a weekly house band gig, and they just do all old rock and roll. They do Thin Lizzy and Judas Priest and Black Sabbath. And when Gene Simmons went on tour in his solo project, he just hired those guys.
Oh, so, Philip Souse and those guys? Philip was from that?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So, and there's a few things like that, but that's just one of them. But all these guys doing this old school hard rock revival on tour with Gene Simmons, but their home base is Nashville.
Interesting.
So, I mean, overwhelmingly, there's so much more country happening, but there's some rockers here too.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Very good. So you're in Nashville full time, or do you split your time between Nashville and Birmingham? Because you're up there with the Black Jacket.
Right. I live in Nashville, but I travel to Birmingham a lot for rehearsals and just to meet the bus. Like if the Black Jacket Symphony's playing in Knoxville or something, I'll just meet them there. But if they're going anywhere far, I have to travel to Birmingham to get on the bus. But I still have a lot of family in Birmingham. My parents are there, so it works out. And, sometimes I can bring April down with me, and she gets to do the weekend with her grandparents while
you're on the road. That's really good, and I bet they appreciate that a lot, because I have a granddaughter. I know it's nice. Do you do any session work at all?
I've done such very little session work. The simplest answer is probably no. I would love to. I mean, that's been a dream for a long time, because that's a lot of steady work in town.
Yeah.
So, ideally, I'd say that's the long-term plan, is to try to get into that. And I don't want to stop touring altogether, but to be able to do less of that would be great.
Sure.
But and you touched on this earlier. There's most acts have their road guys, and then there's the studio guys are different people. And it seems like the same kind of handful of people play on everything.
Yeah.
So it's like a tight knit elite thing to break into. And I still don't know very many people in that world.
Well, anybody listening that needs a guy who's been sharpening his axe like a son of a bitch for a long time now and wants that rock edge, look up Ben Owens. He's right here. And if you listen carefully, we'll give you some contact information at the end. What are you working on now that you're most excited about?
Well, the original music project that I'm involved with right now is a band called Spyderwulf. That's one word, Spyderwulf, but Spider's with a Y and Wolf is with a U. And it is hard rock, like vintage sounding hard rock, like Black Sabbath and like Judas Priest, and with mostly songs about B-movie, horror movie kind of stuff. Songs about werewolves, mummies, alien abduction, and an occasional inspirational workout, pump up, Sylvester Stallone montage song.
How many tracks have you guys cut?
Well, how many have we started, or how many have we finished?
How many have you finished?
We have one full length album out and one EP out.
That's awesome.
Spyderwulf, and the EP is called Son of Spyderwulf. And it's on Spotify. It's on iTunes. It's easy to find if you spell it right.
That's awesome. Spyderwulf. So, where did you meet these guys that you are working with in Spyderwulf?
Well, a lot of them were actually in the Chris Weaver band with me that you talked about earlier.
Very cool.
The main guy, the singer, is a guy named TJ. He lived in Nashville for a little while, but he's since moved back where he came from, which is actually Venice, Florida.
Oh, that's south of me.
As far as I know, is not far at all from you.
No, it's south of here. South here.
And I don't really know. He lived in a house with some guys that I knew, so he was just somebody's roommate. And we found we had similar tastes in rock and roll. And usually he writes the songs. He whips up these quick garage band demos of him playing guitar and programming drums and singing these songs. And he comes to Nashville and we record them. And he's like a machine. He could write 5 songs a day.
Oh wow! Is that what he does full time to make money? He writes songs.
He does like what I do. I mean, he plays bar gigs down there, sort of like what I do in Nashville. But it's like you get the snowbird kind of.
Yeah, I know exactly. For sure.
Thing there.
He doesn't live far from Dick. It's Dickie Betts lives not far from there, actually.
Right. Yeah. He meets a lot of people that are associated with him somehow, and he hangs out with Patrick Moraz all the time, who played with Yes after Rick Wakeman.
He played with somebody else too. I know that name from somewhere.
I'm sure he's played with a bunch of people, but Yes, interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot. Supposedly, the guys from Styx live down here as well, and Brian Johnson from AC/DC lives down there as well in that area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. That whole southwest, a little southwest of here area is popular. You grew up in Birmingham. What was your childhood like? My wife is from England, so every time I see that, I want to say Birmingham. I think that's how she would say it. You grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, not Birmingham, England. What was your childhood like growing up there?
I want to say it was just boring in the best way possible. I mean, nothing real exciting to talk about there. It's just suburban, a lot of family. Had a lot of family in Tuscaloosa. All my grandparents and aunts and cousins and things. So we were always going back and forth, doing a lot with the family, a lot of church, a lot of camp outs.
Oh, so normal, fun stuff.
Oh yeah.
Brothers and sisters?
I have one older brother. His name is Jay.
Jay Owens. What does he do? Is he in music at all?
Not at all. He is like the office manager at the largest psychology practice in the state of Alabama. So like he manages the receptionists or anybody like that works there, and he basically runs the place, like without being a doctor.
Yeah. Shout out to Jay. How about your mom and dad? What kind of work do they do?
Dad's an investment banker.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and he he sells bonds to banks. Like banks are his customers, and they're not government bonds exactly or bail bonds. The funny thing is, I still don't really understand it. I've never connected with that world at all, and I even like eating dinner with a friend of mine, and he was asking my dad questions about his work. And he put it better than I could have. He said, so basically it sounds like you sell money.
Yeah, that's exactly what he does at a discount.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I was very young, I remember hearing him talk about bonds, and I thought he sold bombs.
Bongs? My dad is so fucking cool. He sells bongs.
No, bombs.
Oh, bombs.
That explode.
Oh. That's funny, man.
Yeah.
And how about your mom? Did she work or was she stay-at-home mom?
She was stay at home. until all her children were gone. And now she works for a hedge fund. She's in the same
cool
investment world as Dad.
That's funny, man. That's good.
So still selling money.
You know, I know all this. I was actually a CPA at a college. That's kind of scary, but
wow.
I kind of know all this stuff. You started taking lessons at age 12, but when did you know that, you know, okay, when did you make the leap from, hey, this is fun to this is my life?
I guess I figured out it was an obsession. I mean, probably around high school. But the funny thing is, I think I decided to be a music major in college before I really decided I was going to be a professional musician. Like I didn't really think ahead that far because I just always planned on going to college because everybody did where I came from. Like it was just always part of the plan. So then when I was looking at colleges, I started to realize, oh, well, these are a few that are famous for their music program. So, I mean, I have to pick a college. I have to pick a major. It might as well be my favorite thing.
Yeah. That makes sense.
If it doesn't work out, I mean, I still have a degree. I can get a job.
Sure. No, that makes sense. So you were like experimenting almost. Like, let me see where this goes.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's smart. You know what? I think that's really smart. And it also means that you didn't have any pressure or put any pressure on yourself, which meant you got to enjoy whatever the hell you were doing a lot more.
I did.
That's good, man. I'm really happy.
I was absolutely hungry for knowledge and obsessed with music theory.
That's great.
I couldn't get enough.
So moving forward, and I guess you kind of answered it. I have a question. What do you want to be doing over the next few years or even long term if you had a vision for that? You said sessions, but anything else?
I guess playing in Alice Cooper's band would be pretty cool. I mean, if I'm going to tour, if I could somehow move to an actual huge rock and roll tour, that would be great.
If Spyderwulf took off, that would be totally amazing for you.
That'd be great too. Or I'd even settle for opening for somebody like Alice Cooper. I mean, at least to get started.
Yep, I like that. When you first started playing professionally, what were some of the surprises about like the business end that not necessarily blindsided you, but was like, oh, maybe an abrupt education that you weren't expecting?
Probably the taxes. I mean, I heard enough people talk about that, but I was a little ready for that being a difficult thing. But I still don't understand it very well. But the first couple years, I tried to do it myself. I tried to log into hnrblock.com and just do the simplest thing I could to avoid the hassle and take the standard deduction. And it was just a disaster. So, I mean, well, you said you're a CPA, so now I
was.
So now I just
disclaimer
people like you to take care of it for me. And
yeah.
So trying to do it myself and realizing that I couldn't, that was a surprise. But honestly, that's really the only business end thing that I've had to deal with is taxes. Everything else is just playing guitar. I've managed to get by without having to really participate in the booking or the collecting money from venues or any of that. There's always somebody else to handle that.
Sure.
Which is a good thing because I wouldn't know where to start.
So let's talk about gear for a few minutes. I see all your guitars in the back there. What's your like go-to guitar right now, and what other two guitars might round out your top three? Go-to
right now is an SG.
Let me see it, man. Let's see what you show me your stuff. Tell me about it too.
Well, I've only had it a couple of years, and it's funny. Never really thought it would become my go-to guitar. But, and this is a nice one, too. This is the Custom Shop 61 reissue. I don't know if you can see it that well here, but it's pretty distinct.
Yeah, it looks great.
And that way I know that it's mine.
Yeah. Is there 57s in there?
Either that or burst buckers.
Have they been
not too clear on the difference? And it was also pre-owned, so if he switched them out, I might not know about it.
Oh, okay. Has that been relicked, or is that just from road wear from you?
No, well, it's about 10 years old, so it had a few dings in it when I bought it, but it's come a long way. And I even think, see, the color on the neck is a little different. I think that's starting to wear down.
A little bit. Yeah, that's good, though, man.
I love it.
It looks perfect.
Yeah.
I was looking at the oxidation on the caps, not the caps, on the covers of the pickups. That's what I thought. At least.
I think they come like that. I think.
Okay.
I think the custom shop puts them out where they don't relic them, but they want it to look like somebody bought this in 1961 and has it hanging on their wall the whole time. They don't want it to look beat up, but they want it to look a little aged.
Yeah.
So I think they do that to the pickups at the factory.
So that's got a really thin neck, correct?
Yeah, very thin.
Because the one I have, it's not a custom shop, but it was from 2011, I think, and that year was the 61 reissue, and I absolutely love it. It's nice and thin. I'm not a tall guy, I do not have big hands, and I love that neck. It's maybe the best neck of all the guitars I have, except actually, believe it or not, this 335 is pretty slim, which is odd. Right. But that's great, man. So what else what are your next two in line that round out your top three? You get your SG.
Next would be a Les Paul, which if you want to see it, it's actually over here.
Nice burst.
Custom shop 58.
Oh, wow. So that's the opposite. That's got a big thick neck, right?
Huge. It actually took a little while to get used to. So, yeah, this is the opposite of the SG. But I bought it because I just fell in love with that SG and thought, well, I need a custom shop Les Paul, too.
Do you know Joel Hutzel?
I don't.
Joel's a young guy your age, and he's got a custom 8 and a custom 9, and he loves them. Yeah, really.
Yeah, and the 9s are more expensive because they have that flashier maple. But I actually think I like the look of the 58 better.
Yeah, he loves both of them. That's a nice looking guitar, man.
Thank you.
Really nice. And what would be the number 3?
Number 3 would be a Telly. I actually had 2 of them, and I kind of go through phases about which one's my favorite. But for now, it's this one. I actually played a Telly on everything for years and years, even hard rock like Spyderwulf.
Oh man, that is nice and worn down.
Yeah, well, this is just the Mexican-made road worn series.
That's great. It looks awesome.
So it comes like this just from the factory, which if you look at it closely, you can tell, from a distance, it looks like it could be legit, but if you look up close, you can tell it's factory worn and it looks a little cheesy, but I didn't buy it for the looks. I bought it because of the feel, the way the finish on the neck is worn down.
That's great,
you don't get that sticky paint job.
Yeah.
So I bought that and ended up sanding the finish off the neck of a few of my other things.
Cool. Yeah, that neck, the frets on the neck look great. I love the way that looks down at the bottom. The way they're worn. Yeah, that looks phenomenal. Oh, yeah. That looks so cool.
Those are huge frets too, actually.
That's great, man. And they don't have, did they purposely not put a cap on the switch?
I don't remember, honestly.
that would be pretty funny, no cap because it's road worn.
Right. Or maybe maybe it had already fallen off in the store before I bought it. I'm actually not sure, but it's never bothered me enough to get one.
No. It's definitely not a big deal. Well, cool, man. Yeah. What was your first guitar? Do you remember that?
I do. It was an Oscar Schmidt 3/4 size acoustic guitar. I think my parents bought it for me for my 8th birthday.
Oh, so you got a guitar when you were younger, then you started taking lessons. You had always messed around.
We actually took a couple lessons then when I was 8, but I don't remember why we quit that. I was taking piano lessons too then, and maybe just decided to focus on one, but they bought me that guitar. I took lessons for probably one summer and then didn't start back again for real until I was 12. But I distinctly remember having forgotten everything between
8 and 12?
12 years old.
Do you still have that guitar any chance?
I do. It's at my parents' house in Birmingham.
Oh, that's really cool that you have that. That's cool. Must be nostalgic if you pick it up where you see it even laying around, no?
It's really not in playable shape. Like the nut is broken.
Okay.
So the strings just fall all the way to the frets. It'd be fine, though, if I just put a new nut on it. That's really the only thing wrong with it.
So if just curious, because we like the same music, if I asked you to pick your top 3 favorite albums, what's your knee-jerk reaction? What would they be?
Okay. Do they need to be in order or just my top 3?
No, man, just top 3.
Okay, because that's easier. London Calling by The Clash.
Interesting.
And AC/DC Back in Black.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce Springsteen Born to Run.
Wow. Okay. That's really diverse. I saw The Clash. In fact, I was working on stage, student security. I don't know how I got that job, but it was a really good concert many years ago. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what do you think you'd be doing instead?
Well, it's hard to picture anything that's not directly involved with music, but if I weren't out there playing gigs like I am, I think I'd be teaching. And I do teach a little bit. I have something like 6 guitar students. But if I was really going to restructure my career, I'd probably go back to school, get my master's, and then teach on the college level, teaching music, teaching guitar lessons. And I think I'd be a good theory teacher.
Great. Cool.
Other than that, I could see myself being a bus driver.
That's a tough job, man. I'd go with the teaching. Tell me,
it's an underappreciated art form. Like I've always admired
bus drivers
because there's a way. I mean, some of them drive like a masterpiece where you can get out of your bunk and go tinkle in the middle of the night, and you might.
Oh, you're talking about those buses.
They're riding so smooth,
You're talking about those buses. Okay, I get you. I grew up in New York City, man, so I'm thinking of being a city bus driver in the Bronx, and I'm thinking, man, I can't believe it.
Absolutely not.
I can't believe anybody would want to do that as a plan B versus being a music teacher.
No, that's my other job in the music industry is bus driver.
That I totally get. Hey, tell me something about yourself, Ben, that people would either be surprised to hear or would find a little odd.
There's a lot of them, so I must be a pretty odd guy. But probably the biggest one is that I have zero interest in sports. Like there is not a person that I've come across that is less interested in sports than I am. And it actually, I think, makes life pretty hard because that's usually the first way people relate to each other. Like, oh, where are you from? Oh, this must be your favorite sports team. Let's talk about the new coach they just got. And I don't even know what sports teams are where.
Sure.
I remember it because it just – and from Alabama, sports are huge.
They are huge.
I meet people in the music industry that are Alabama fans and assume I should be too. And they say, oh, you were born in Tuscaloosa. We should get along great. And then I have to – should I just pretend to be a huge Alabama fan to try to get ahead in business here and make this contact?
Well, you know what? In music, I found most guys, more often than not, you're not going to be the only guy who's not interested in sports. I think a lot of guys in music are not interested in sports. Maybe not to your like complete zero passion level, but you know, most guys, it's either because I think it's odder if you said that I'm totally into sports. That would probably be the odd thing as a musician. And I've met a couple of guys that are like that, but maybe 5 out of 150.
I guess it's odd to be on either extreme.
Yeah. Maybe.
And I'm on one of the extremes.
Sure. Give me another thing. Now you got me intrigued and engaged that you said you had a bunch of them.
Okay. Well, I thought of 3 when I heard that question. Okay. There's some basic foods that just make me want to throw up, like eggs and potatoes.
Together or separate, or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter.
Interesting.
Like, I'm fine with French fries and potato chips. Like, fries, if they're skinny and crunchy like they are at Steak and Shake.
Right.
But if they're any bigger than that, well, that's a funny one. I actually didn't understand that French fries are potatoes until I was about 5, because the only fries I'd ever had were from McDonald's. And they're just skinny and crunchy. Then I had some bigger fries and was like, this is gross. These taste like potatoes. Who put potatoes in my French fries?
Oh, that's funny.
But, I mean, those are basic things that everybody loves, like bread.
Yeah, pretty much.
Revolting.
And what was the third thing?
Specifically, musically, I think I'm the only guitar player I can think of that doesn't ever use a compressor.
I don't have one, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Most guys,
at least around Nashville, it seems like that's one of the basic things. Like, that's kind of the standard Nashville pedal board is a couple overdrive options and a compressor and some delay and some reverb. And I've never touched one. I've never borrowed one. I've never tried one out at the store.
Why not?
I don't know. I just never had that void that I thought I needed one. Like, I have the tones that I like that I'm okay. I guess all of my favorite guitar tones are from records that were recorded before compressor pedals existed. So I never thought it was going to help me sound like what I want to sound like.
Sure. Sound like Mick Jones from The Clash?
Right. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a compressor.
I don't think he was worried about compressors, no.
No.
Hey, what's been the happiest time or happiest moment in your life so far?
Happiest time, generally, I'd say is right now. I mean, like, just talking about long term, this phase of my life is like it just keeps getting better. I'm happy with where I live. I'm happy with my family. I'm happy with my career, and I'm happy with looking forward to where my career is going to end up if it keeps growing at the rate that it has. I mean,
that's
should
great,
be
man.
Slow and steady.
That's good. I was worried for a second. I thought you meant the happiest time is right now talking to me. I was going to refer you to your brother for a psychiatric appointment.
Sorry, that'd be number 2.
Yeah. That's good, man. I'm glad that you're so optimistic about things. I think you should be, which is great.
Well, thanks.
What are you most afraid of?
Most afraid of that something happening to my wife and daughter, like when I'm not there.
Sure.
Like, are they locking the door? Are they remembering to set the alarm? You know, I mean, we don't live in a bad neighborhood or anything, but anything could happen.
Sure.
So I worry about them when they're driving and when they're home and what's going to happen.
I think that's totally normal, man. I feel you on that 100%. What's your non-musical superpower?
Okay. I think to be a musician, you got to have, well, you need to be good at playing music, but then the other 2 big skills you need to have, I think I'm awful at one of them and really good at the other. I'm awful at networking and meeting people and making small talk just to get to know other people in the business. But my superpower is preparedness. I guess it's a Boy Scout thing. The Boy Scout motto is be prepared. So just doing my homework and figuring out how to manage my schedule in a way that I can learn all the material I need. I mean, most times at rehearsal, I feel like I'm probably the best prepared person there. And
I can't tell you.
Talking some of the other guys through the songs, you know.
Well, I can't tell you how many guys I've interviewed, and they said they got an audition that was a freaking cattle call, and they got the gig because they were the most prepared exclusively. Right. I mean, literally, that was like the number one reason. So that's a really good superpower to have, man. So do not let that one go underappreciated. Hobbies or interests outside of music?
Really, no, because I hardly have any spare time anymore. I pretty much haven't stopped working in a couple of years, because if I'm not playing a gig, I'm working on the next gig, and I kind of have a rule with myself that probably can't keep up for too long, which is to always take every single possible gig.
Everybody has, all the smart guys have that rule.
Yeah,
everyone.
Because one gig might lead to another gig, so I'm not going to turn something down because I'm tired or because it doesn't pay enough. Oh, but what if somebody else on the gig is going to be on this other gig later that they can refer me to? So, not a lot of hobbies. I mean, I like to watch movies and TV like anybody, and I read comic books. If I had spare time, I'd probably be a big time comic book collector, but I'm just a minor dabbler. So pretty much my hobby is when I go to bed at night, I pull up a movie or a TV show on my iPad with my headphones and watch about 10 minutes of it before I fall asleep. So like I'm almost done with season 2 of Stranger Things, but I've been watching it 10 minutes at a time.
Sure. Yeah.
When I go to bed.
My older son loved that show. He told us to watch it. Different generation. Couldn't get it. So I'll ask you another question. Be perfect, right up your alley. If you could be a superhero for a week, which superhero would you be?
Okay. The Martian Manhunter is
who's that? I missed that.
He's the DC Comics superhero. He's in the Justice League. He's not in the movie, but
interesting.
He has pretty much all the same powers as Superman and more. He's telepathic. He's a shapeshifter. He can turn himself invisible. Probably why he's not a very popular character. He's almost so powerful that it's boring.
Oh, no weaknesses.
Well, his weakness is fire, but who isn't?
Hey, I got some fire on me. Yeah, I hear you.
But
the Martian Manhunter,
a superhero, he'd be, the most useful one, I think.
So that's why you'd want to be him. You just think he's the most efficient.
Yeah, all the powers.
Gotcha. What's the toughest decision you've ever had to make, or the hardest thing you've ever had to do?
Honestly, the toughest decision, this is a boring one, but I think it's real, is probably picking out a health insurance plan.
That is so funny.
I did so much math and invented so many hypothetical scenarios because there's so many options that chances are going to come out in the wash. Like, do you pay less money for a higher deductible? On average, you're probably going to spend the same amount of money either way, unless something really bad happens. So I just spent a lot of time trying to add all that stuff up. I don't know how to use Excel, but if I did, I would have made a spreadsheet and compared all this stuff.
Wow, that's very funny, but a very fair answer.
And it changes every year. and it goes up every year. And then you're like, okay, do I stick with this thing and pay more money for it, or do I look for something new?
2 more questions, man.
All right.
Who's had the biggest influence on your life?
That would be my parents. I mean, not my musical life, but my life overall. But they aren't musicians, but they have nurtured my musicianship. They've always encouraged. So, I mean, I'm where I am because of them, and they're the biggest fans. They come to every gig of mine that they possibly can.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And lastly, knowing that this changes, what's your definition of happiness for right now?
You know what? I wrote down a good one.
Good, man. Let me hear it. Hit me with it, man.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking of my parents, one of my dad's, he always had all these mantras, but the one that stuck with me was happiness is a choice.
Very true.
Which you can take that a couple different ways, but I look at it this way: like, by choosing to be happy, you're being happy about the future. You're not. Everybody has setbacks, but you can't get caught up on what setbacks you've had in the past. You need to learn from those, be happy about what you've learned from those, and look forward to where what you've learned is going to take you. So I think happiness is being just finding the right balance between being content with what you are, making the most of what you've had, learning from whatever's happened to you, and looking forward to where you're going to go.
That's good, man. That sounds very good. Hey, I can't thank you enough for your time. I really appreciate it. Is there anything, how could I turn people on to you, and where could people find you online? And what can, you talked about Spyderwulf, Spyderwulf. That's one thing.
Right. So check out Spyderwulf on Spotify, on iTunes, and check out the Black Jacket Symphony. There's tons of stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, that would be very cool. All right, man.
And they just put out a good promotional video. Like, if you find the Black Jacket Symphony Facebook page, you'll see it. It's us doing Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody.
You're on there?
Yeah.
I'm going to check that out myself. All righty, man. Any final words, parting words of wisdom?
Stay classy.
There you go. Stay classy. ? Hey, man. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I've had a blast.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Again, many thanks to Ben Owens for spending this time with us. Truly appreciate it. And congratulations on your little girl again.
Thank you.
Go to everyonelovesguitar.com and sign up to get notified about future episodes, along with some cool stuff for guitar players. Now, be nice, go play your guitar, and most importantly, have some fun. Till next time, peace and love, and I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.